Hello, it's Aaron again, bringing you another random rambling video. I started this on Saturday, the 30th day of August in 2025, at exactly 3 o'clock a.m. Along with welcoming you to my channel, allow me to thank you for watching. Please comment, like, and subscribe before sharing this video and turning on the post notification bell. I made a video, or tried to make a video. Actually, I did make a video. I didn't upload. It was a long video, so my audio cut out after a while, and I didn't realize it. I don't, for whatever reason, if you go too long, if you make a long video, the audio cuts out after so long. I think it's like 10 to 12 minutes. The audio will cut out after that. I'd made a long video, and at the end of the video, I started a story that I'd like to tell anyway. It's kind of out of the blue. This is a random rambling video anyway, so I wanted to tell the story, so I'll tell the story. It's out of the, like I said, it's it's random, it's obscure. It's no reason to tell the story except that I want to. It's a story about a girl that I cared about in high school and after high school, that I cared dearly about, who now will not talk to me due to my stupidity and something that I did, and that she refuses to forgive me for. And there's nothing she could have done verbally, and that's what it came down to, a verbal attack on her that made her not forgive me and not talk to me anymore. There's nothing she could have said or done to me that would make me not be able to forgive her and never talk to her again. Let me tell you about a story of a girl named Kim and a boy named Aaron. They met in drama class, a class which Aaron did not need since he had been acting since he was in the 5th grade, a class Kim took because she thought it would be an easy credit and she thought it would get her out of her shell, being a shy person as she was. So Aaron and Kim met in drama class and became super close. First, it started with me thinking Kim was cute, and I started talking to her because I thought she was cute. I thought she was very pretty, actually. And so I started talking to her, hoping it would go somewhere. It never really did. But we became super close friends. She and her twin sister and I already said she and her twin sister and I all became close friends. And I was really closer with Kim than her twin sister Shannon. They were not identical twins. What's the opposite of not identical? Was it paternal? Yeah, they were, was it paternal? They were paternal twins. I think that's the word for non-identical twins. Is it fraternal or paternal? Anyway, that's what they were. They were non-identical twins. One was a minute or so older than the other. But they were twins. They were both taking the same class. So I met them both in the same class. But I thought Kim was beautiful, so I started talking to her first, and we became closer than Shannon and I. So Kim and I became super close and just were inseparable during school and even after school. She was my best friend, and she considered me, she said, to be her best friend. And every day before Kim was a cheerleader, and every day before school, she and I would meet at her locker. The cheerleaders had the best lockers because they were centralized, so that wherever your first class was, you were able to get to your locker to your first class easily. They were all the cheerleaders' lockers were basically in the same area, and they were all centralized to each building and to each class you might need to go to. There were several buildings in my high school, labeled M1 through M4. There might have been an M5, I don't remember, but M stood for McClure. That's where I went to a high school named McClure High School, McClure High. And the buildings were labeled M1 through M4 at least. And there was an M5, I believe, on campus. And then we called the Jack in the Box across the street M6 because that's where everybody would skip and go to for lunch. And you would just tell somebody I'm going to M6. We're eating lunch in M6. Everybody knew that go across the street to go through the fence, the hole in the fence, and go across the street to the Jack in the Box. But yeah, Kim's locker and the other cheerleaders' lockers were centralized so that whichever building your first class was in, you can get there quickly. So we would meet at her locker, she being a cheerleader, and every morning before school we'd meet at her locker, which probably was the only reason I got up to go to school, was to see her and meet her at her locker. I mean, we were super close. I mean, she was my world in high school, and I ultimately fell in love with her. I don't think she was in love with me, but there's a story I'd like to tell about how she told me that she did like me. She wasn't in love with me, but she did like me the same way I liked her. We went to a turnabout dance, the Sadie Hawkins dance, I guess it's also called, where the girl asked the guy to go instead of how it's traditionally done, where the guy asks the girl to the dance. So Kim asked me to go to the dance, and of course I said yes. And at this dance we went outside to smoke a cigarette. Shame, we both smoked cigarettes. And that was it at that time for me. She wound up being a pot smoker, I learned, after high school, a little later. She got into other stuff besides cigarettes. I know she was a heavy marijuana smoker. I don't know what other drugs she got into after high school because we kind of fell apart for a while. I was forbidden to see her for a while. I'm drinking some fake Mountain Dew. It's called Mountain Holler. Here it is. It's really good, though, and it tastes very much like Mountain Dew. So at this dance that I was talking about, I need to hurry because we're quickly approaching 8 minutes. And I don't know how long. I think it's about 10 minutes until the audio cuts out. So, and I take so long to tell stories, I can't just get to the point. I have to add little things. At this dance, Kim and I went outside to smoke a cigarette. We sat down on a bench, and while we were smoking, Kim said, "How come you never put the moves on me?" I said, "What do you mean?" She said, "How come you never try anything with me, like all the other guys do?" And I wanted to say, because I'm a gentleman and I don't do that. But what I told her was, well, it's because I know you don't like me that way. And she said, well, then you're blind. And then I'll never forget that. That really made me feel good. She said, well, then you're blind. I said, well, what do you mean? She said, of course I liked you like that. And I said, oh, do you? And so we kissed for the first and only time at that dance. At that night we kissed, and then we called ourselves dating at that point. But for me, the kiss was awkward. That's not something I was supposed to be doing with Kim. This is Kim, I thought. What are you doing kissing Kim? This is your best friend. But there's a lot of people say, well, I don't want to, I don't want to, mess around because I don't want to mess up our friendship. And a lot of people think that's bullshit, but in this case, it was true for me. Kim meant so much to me that I didn't want to mess up our friendship or our relationship. As the relationship we had was perfect in my mind. I didn't need to, kiss her or touch her or make a move on her, as she said, or try anything. I was happy with how it was. I just wanted her in my life. I wanted to joke with her and hold hands and hug at her locker before we went to first class. This was all good enough for me. But I was in love with her and wanted to be around her as much as I could. I didn't want to fuck that up by being in a relationship. I mean, I wanted I wanted to kiss her, but it just didn't feel right. And so this was a Friday night, the dance was, and then she went out of town that weekend, and now we're past 10 minutes, so the audio's going to cut out any time, so I better hurry up. So that weekend she went out of town, and Monday morning I meant to tell her when we got to school Monday morning. I wanted to tell her that I didn't think we should be dating. Now we were calling ourselves dating. I wanted to tell her I didn't want to be like that. I didn't want to date. I just wanted to be friends. And so I was hoping she wouldn't be offended by that. But when we got to school, I met her at her locker, and she told me the same thing, that she didn't like our kiss and didn't feel right and didn't want to do that anymore. Didn't want to date me, just wanted to be friends. And she told me, I hope you're not offended or hurt. I said, I'm not offended or hurt at all. I said, I wanted to tell you the same thing. There's more to this story, but if the volume cuts out, if the audio cuts out, leave me a comment letting me know whether or not you'd like to hear the rest of the story. I'll just start in the middle of the story, and it'll be a lot quicker. Anyway, so we were super close all through high school. I fell in love with her. And there was a girl named Lori with whom I moved in to her house, with whom I moved in. I moved in with her in her house. Her grandmother had bought her own house, so she lived alone. Just out of high school, that was kind of the party place. That's where everybody went to party, at Lori's house. She liked me. She had seen me in school and thought I was cute. She was close friends with my brother, my stepbrother Sean. So she asked Sean if he would bring me over to meet her because she thought I was cute. And so one night he did, and I didn't realize that I was being brought over there because she liked me. But I had seen her in school too. I didn't know who she was, but I had seen her once we got over there. I'm like, hey, that's that girl I thought was hot. She was tall and skinny like a model. She was pretty hot, I thought. So we got together. I fell in love with her as well, and we moved in together in her house that her grandmother had bought for her. While living in her house, I found we were in the same year. She had to drop out because she got pregnant and had her son her senior year. So while living with her, I found our yearbook. We were in the same grade. We were born 1 month apart. I was born in May. She was born in June of '74. I was born in May of '74. She was born in June of '74. I found our yearbook. There was a picture in our yearbook that I really cherished. It was a picture of Kim and I at that dance that we first kissed, that Teddy Hawkins dance. We were together. We were sitting together and kind of holding, I had my arm around her, and we were sitting together. I had my arm around her waist, and we had our heads together. I cherished that picture. I thought it was a very adorable picture, and it wound up in the yearbook with a caption saying the same thing, "How cute" or something like that, or it said Kim and Aaron enjoying themselves at the whatever dance. How cute, something like that. It said something like that. I better hurry. But I cherished that picture because it was adorable, I thought. So I found our yearbook. I had lost my yearbook. My mother couldn't afford to buy. I couldn't afford to buy the yearbook, and my mother couldn't afford to buy me the yearbook. But my stepfather bought me a yearbook, my senior yearbook. I had lost it, or something happened to it. But while living with Lori, I found our yearbook, our senior yearbook, in her closet. So I started to flip through it looking for that picture, I was excited to see that picture again. I knew exactly what page it was on and where it was. So as I was flipping through the book, I knew the next page would be the page for Kim and I. So I couldn't wait. Kim and I, not the king and I. Shall we dance? So, here, I shouldn't waste time with that. It's growing toward 15 minutes. I better hurry up. I got to the page where Kim and I that picture with Kim and I turned the page and it was cut out. And then Lori told me, aha. She said, ha ha, I cut that bitch out. And I said, why'd you do that? She said, because. And I said, you didn't even know me then. She said, I know, but I saw you. I thought you were cute. I saw you around school with that bitch all the time. I said, well, she's not a bitch. And And she's like, well, you were together, right? I said, we were never really officially boyfriend and girlfriend. We were just close friends. And she said, well, I don't want you talking to her ever again. I said, I can't do that, Lori. I said, I'm probably in love with the girl, and I miss her. And so Lori forbade me. Is that the word would say forbade me? Yes, she had forbade me from ever talking to her